Good morning, Albertans and Canadians. We're going to have a talk today. I know it's early for all the West, but I guess it'll be about 4:28 Alberta time. But I've had a number of messages on the Canadian Bill of Rights, not even just from Albertans, Ontarians. So we're going to go through that. The Bill of Rights was the first act of the rights of the citizens in Canada. Of those, this is where we find two of what people reference to Magna Carta on arrests. But Canadians understand this. The Bill of Rights is an act just like the Charter. It still exists. However, it's been superseded by 1982's Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So whenever judges or anybody looks at your rights that are enshrined federally, listed in Bill of Rights or Charter of Rights and Freedoms, they go to that. That's all federal justices will look at when it comes to rights. Your property, your business, your licensing, fees, that all goes to the province. So the Bill of Rights made 1960, replaced 1982, not replaced, superseded by Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Judges only look at the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, supposed to. But that doesn't always work out either, as when you go through every act and bill made federally or provincially, you're going to see 99% of the time a reference to either Lieutenant Governor or Governor General that allows them to supersede your rights. That's the crown power of colonialism we've inherited since the original formation in 1867 under our limited federal constitution. Charter of Rights will be used over and above the Bill of Rights. Charter has a few extra rights in it enshrined. There's not a whole bunch of differences, but Bill of Rights no longer represents Canadians. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms does. However, there's another rule to this as well too. Quebec never signed on in 1982. They're still operating in the original 1867. Notwithstanding clause does not apply to Quebec. Further, they're under the Bill of Rights, not the Charter of Rights. They are reduced down to the original Bill of Rights. Only province, all the territories are all in with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Not again that there's a big difference, but there are some differences and changes. But again, the issue is, regardless, Lieutenant Governor is put in there for the provinces under their Bill of Rights. A lot of provinces have a Bill of Rights too for the province. However, those can be changed anytime a Lieutenant Governor decides to put pressure on the Premier. Lieutenant Governor are every single province, every single territory, appointed by the Prime Minister and swear allegiance to the sitting Prime Minister, regardless of how that flips. It's literally the Prime Minister is King or Queen of Canada. That's how, when you hear Her Majesty, you're talking about Justin Trudeau. Before that, it was Stephen Harper, and we can go all the way back until absolutely 1952. King George VI, who you won't find represented, even though he's the original and finalizer of the end of colonization in Canada. They decolonized Canada. He died. He didn't finish his work. And our politicians in 1952, upon his death, we had a war veteran. Queen Elizabeth ascended. She was 27 years old. Unfortunately, she wasn't educated in her roles and responsibilities as Majesty. So she knew of decolonization, but she didn't know what her responsibilities were to finish the work of her father. There's a whole bunch of colonial countries still left over that have actually stolen that crown power. Even in India, although they've gotten their independence, they've captured and retained a lot of the colonial power of Her Majesty and given that absolutely to their rulers. They go through amendments periodically. I hope one day India addresses the colonialism, but they haven't yet. And this is the absolute power of a prime minister and a premier to usurp democracy through the colonial attachments embedded in our Constitution, leftovers from decolonization 1952. The world voted, it's absolutely illegal. 1960, they enshrined and passed the decolonization. That was the Convention on Decolonization. It's done. Russia was really, really helpful in this. Russia, USA are not colonials, regardless of what people say. They're absolutely not colonials. There's no reference in either constitution to any kind of crown or imperial power or giving away your sovereignty. And look at the strength of Russia and USA today. It's there, it's proved. They've done very, very well. UK holds a veto. France also holds a veto, as well as China. 5 nations in this world, they're all tremendously strong. The EU is down to just 1 veto power. Those 27 nations hold strong because they've captured France's veto. Now, Britain pulled out of the EU. They took their veto with them, but the EU still has the France veto to blanket wrap all 27 nations. Federation of Russia, 85 regions, tremendous country, 85 regions attached, 22 republics. UK, 5 countries that are protected through that veto, and then you have the USA and its 50 states. Other than that, every country or region or would-be nation in the world has no overlap in any federation or protection of the veto or the tremendous power of the 5. I'm writing an Oxford paper about international law, going through this, the dangers of nations not blanketed in the veto or under the direct blanket of one of the binding 5. And if you look, the 50 states are basically the first version in this world of a UK. That's how you have to look at USA. Each 50 state is sovereign with its own codified constitutions. There are a number of which made their constitutions before the federal constitution. See what's going on here? Now, it's the United States of America. You can't even get into the United States of America to apply as a state unless you have a codified constitution and you understand the system of codification, the Big C. Canada, very, very limited on the Big C. This is why the politicians get away with so much. Big C constitutionalism outlines rules of governance. It tells you each political person's roles and responsibilities, and it puts a system of checks and balances by you, the people, over your politicians. So even when they get out and they tell you, they promise you the world, the reality is once elected, they walk into the role, and you, the people, your ancestors, have already outlined all the rules of how they govern. Sorry, you can't do that. There's a committee on this. Oh, this committee decides that. Oh, by the way, it's bipartisan. Half from this party, half from that party. Like, you don't get away with just doing whatever you want in countries like Russia or the United States and many, many others around the world. This is not so in Canada, not even close. People talk about communism. Oh, and we're getting more like communist China. The reality is it's colonialism, and we've always been there. It's a pure autocratic power. The problem is when you give that tremendous power to politicians, there was a time in Canadian history where we were very Christian orientated, many Catholics, Christians, faith-based politicians. That was the world. Erosion of morality and spirituality have seen the corruption level only expand. And you can look at this when they start ranking corruption in governments. Communism, it's rampant. Colonials, it's rampant. This is history. It's why it's not utilized anymore. Unfortunately, as there are still despots, dictators, and autocrats in this world, Canada is an autocrat. It doesn't matter which political party you hand the reins over to. When they get elected, they find out very fast they don't have to live up to any of their expectations, or even worse, they can promise you 5 to 9 key points in their campaigns to get elected and actually give you those. But then, like we see with Pierre Poilievre and Aaron O'Toole, they can roll out literally 400 more policies that were never even mentioned. They're absolutely detrimental to Canadian citizens. That's what we see. Justin Trudeau did it. He's doing many of the same policies as Aaron O'Toole's going to do if he gets power. NDP will do the same thing. They have an agenda. They have special interest. All of them foreign. Literally all of them foreign. You can pick the countries out and you know which ones they are. They're getting even more bolder and expressing that themselves. Talking about the Five Eyes. That is not the ruling powers of this world. 2 of the countries are, one of which is not colonial at all, and literally is only in it for the military expression coming in from those countries. And that's the USA. They want to see the military commitment. And guess what? Five Eyes on military commitment. Not even close. We see this in NATO. We see it in binding law for Geneva and Vienna, and the attachment of the police of the UN that were supposed to be out there doing peacekeeping missions. Like right now, for example, we look around the world, there's countries who are committing gross human rights violations. How come the peacekeepers aren't in there? Can Canada even contribute to that? Or are we so under our commitment, we've so taken away from our military, we can't even afford to pay? Myanmar, they could sure use that help right now. That's the obligation of the allies of this world. And we've now shirked our responsibilities. International law is very good. When you look at what's actually binding, most of it's really good. When you hear non-binding agreements, you can have some where literally almost every nation in the world signed on. But when one of those 5 says no, it's a no, and that's the end of it. And when you go and you participate in that and you enforce it on your citizens, you're driving a wedge with the allies. And once you've been vetoed by one of those members, it won't take long as you sign, like Stephen Harper, Justin Trudeau have signed on to such a tremendous amount of non-binding agreements. They've successfully pissed off all 5 of the binding 5. All 5 of them want little to nothing to do with Canada anymore. That's alarming, because those are the allies of World War II. As well as they have veto, they have all kinds of extra powers to influence your trade through trade embargoes. They can do sanctions, taxing the heck out of your products manufactured or resources so that nobody will want to buy yours. Or 3, they can come in with military might, force their will on you. Or 4, they can start executing your nation's leaders. That's what they can do. And people can laugh about this if they don't want to believe it. I can promise you, and experts will tell you, all 5 of those nations have executed tremendous amount of world leaders. The United States isn't even the highest on the list. They hit the news the most, but they're not. We just watched Trump execute one. We watched Biden issue an order to launch bombs in Syria. And then how long will it be till Biden's forced to execute a leader of some regime somewhere? France has done many nations in the world, actual presidents, 22 of them, just in 60-year period. France has been the most active on world leaders of countries. That's the power of the UNSC. 5 countries. And they also are the only ones who cement international law. Whether people want to admit that or not, the reality is this education's coming forward, as is dealing with decolonization. The last remnants enshrined in absolutely the entire limited Canadian Constitution only bolsters the idea of giving our politicians an unholy power, literally making them your God. That's what Canada does. It's sick, it's wrong, it has no place in 2021. People have a right to their rights and freedoms. They don't come to this country to swear an oath of citizenship to a foreign nation, swearing away their religion and their faith and taking their faith with a crown entity, which is absolutely our politicians. Prime Minister, that's how it is. And of the Prime Minister, it's Governor General, down to all the Lieutenant Governors across every province and territory, as well as his or her appointed Privy Council, not going to the Queen of England, a Privy Council to Her Majesty, your Prime Minister. Where's the democracy in that? And if you're worried about Upper House, Prime Minister also swore all of those senators to Her Majesty. They're all sworn. That's the oath. And Her Majesty is absolutely Prime Minister. Prime Minister appoints every senator, has absolute full authority over Upper House. It is a sick, broken system, long since forgotten in this world, but not for Canada. It's so very important we roll out this party. People ask me, another big thing that I'm getting in messages is, what are you going to do for my group, or this group, or me, I. It's not what CCP or myself is going to do for you. It's what CCP is going to make available for you to do for yourself. That's what codification is. Rules of governance. What is enshrined? People ask about military. That's where you enshrine it. Your commitments, the funding that Canadians are going to go forward with, that politicians must adopt to, respecting world commitments, your sovereignty for one. We don't even have sovereignty. We don't. Out west, we have the baddest. I know, I've been to the base. We have all that stationed here. Why is Canada not making their own military? Why are we housing foreign military? Why don't we do our own? Why are we unlike every other nation in the world? Most other nations in the world, by a large margin, most other nations have absolute sovereignty, have a we the people, and absolutely build their military to represent their country. In our Constitution, we give away our sovereignty to a foreign power. We have to end this, Canadians. It's 2021. Everybody's been moving on since 1948. We've done nothing. We've never ever changed our pace, changed our direction to match the ever-changing world. We don't fit in with it anymore. We're down here with the despots, dictators, because we're absolute autocrats. That's the Canadian way. I'm sorry to have to get that out there, but that's the education. It's not what the politicians are going to give you, because they won't hold their word anyway. It's what you're going to do for yourselves. That's the great promise of the CCP, giving you, the people, the chance to write the rules, set the minimum standards. That's how it's done. With the best of the best in the world, comparing all the countries of the world who've went through this since 1948 and even at later dates. But all of the pitfalls, trials, tribulations, things that worked, things that didn't, what should be amendable, what shouldn't be, why, how. That's what will be given to you. The cost will be $10 million a province. Think about that. Not much money at all. Instead of always looking at referendums, We can do the federal Canadian, provincial, and territorial constitutions, add them all together, 14 at 10 million, 140 million to protect your children's future. A one-time deal, get it all done, get it enshrined, and put the systems in place for what can be amendable and what can't be, what should be enshrined and what shouldn't be. Limit the little c. We would still have that. Politicians will have obviously some way to bring things forward, but in full democracy, and it's you all who set that. Elected upper house, not attached to prime minister. Ending colonial powers, a huge one. No more governor general, or at least put it in the role like they do in the United States. Clearly defined. Clearly that definition does not match Canada one bit. Maybe look at something like that, where we have a protected system in case another protection. That's what they do in the United States. It's what they do in Russia. It's what they do in many European nations. Only Canada operates like this, and a select few of other countries. A broken, dead system from the past, riddled with corruption, as you all see and feel that today. Like I said, CPC, Liberal, NDP wouldn't matter, or any of the other ones. Though codification, they all just pick up the crown, put it on their head, and say, I own all of you. I will administer what I think's best, and if you don't like it, I'll just go around you with my Privy Council, my Governor General, my Lieutenant Governor, and force my will upon all of you, which is what we see today. Handful of policies, here you go, people. Meanwhile, literally hundreds over the 4-year period that none of you asked for, none of you voted for, did not participate in any town hall for, but yet that's what happens every time. They borrow like drunken sailors, they steal all your money, they take everything you have and everything you're gonna have. They borrow away your children's future for the now. They tell you all these things are imperative. None of you know any better? Yeah, right. This is absolute corruption. Fill in the back pockets with as much of your cash or cash you don't even have. Maxing out your credit cards. Maxing out all the public debt they can. And whether it's corporate or personal, at the end of the day, that gets dumped on the public. And you're all going to get it regardless if you assumed it or not. Devaluing each and every one of you. It's what they're doing year after year. And it varies in provinces because it varies in each and every dictator. Why are your federal rights going like this all over Canada? Provincial ones are always like this because provinces, zero codification. You have to take your provincial leaders to a Supreme Court that's bound to Governor General, as the Superior Court of the provinces and territories bound to Lieutenant Governor. Your Prime Minister gets an overriding say of all of the justices in Canada, provincial or federal. It's called King's Court. Another garbage deal from colonialism. Throw it away. Thanks, everybody. This is my in-depth video today. Share. Super important. I know it's early. Bye now. At least you all got to see the sunrise with me. Bye now.